Think about how you wrote your last text message or the last email you sent to your boss. It was probably simple, direct, and unadorned. Today, we live in the era of plain prose. We write to deliver facts as quickly and transparently as possible. But if you could step into a time machine and travel back 2, 3, or 4,000 years, you'd realize something bizarre. Almost everything our ancestors wrote sounded like a song. To us, ancient writing feels poetic, structured, and musical. Whether it's the sacred Hindu Vedas, the famous Greek epics of Homer, or even just ordinary letters and everyday farm work songs, the ancient world seemed to write in rhythm, meter, and rhyme. Was this just a stylistic choice? Or did our ancestors possess a secret technology of language that we've completely forgotten? Today, on Mind Frontier, we're diving into the hidden history of the spoken word to uncover why the ancient world had to rhyme. When we think of ancient poetic writing, we usually think of holy scriptures or epic tales of heroes. But the truth is, this musicality was woven into the most mundane, everyday activities. Let's travel to ancient Egypt, circa 1400 BCE, to a territorial district south of modern Luxor. Inside the tomb of a scribe named Paheri, archaeologists found hieroglyphic inscriptions depicting ordinary agricultural operations. These weren't dry records. They were responsive, rhythmic chants sung by the field laborers as they worked. Listen to the dialogue of the plowmen and threshers. "Hasten, leader, forward with the oxen. Friend, hasten at the work. Let us finish in good time." And the response of the threshers? "Thresh for yourselves. Thresh for yourselves, oxen. Thresh for yourselves. Thresh for yourselves. Straw to eat, corn for your masters." Even backbreaking field labor was conducted in a rhythmic, antiphonal dance of speech. But it goes further. What about personal mail? In 1947, papyrologists published a spectacular find from Egypt, the Specimina Epistularia, the only known collection of ancient Latin model letters. These letters, dating before the 3rd century, were templates for everyday social interactions. Things like congratulating a friend on receiving a small bequest, or celebrating a slave's freedom. And yet, these simple, casual letters weren't written in prose. They were meticulously crafted with quantitative clausulae, highly artistic, rhythmic sentence endings designed to strike the ear with a deliberate musical beat. In ancient Rome, even the technical manuals were rhythmic. Marcus Vitruvius, writing his famous guide on architecture, De Architectura, structured 61% of his sentences to end in these precise, poetic rhythms. The agricultural writer Cato did the same in his book on farming. To our ancestors, writing without rhythm was like speaking without breathing. It simply wasn't done. But why? Before we can understand why they did this, we have to clear up a major misconception. When we think of rhyme today, we think of end rhymes: light, night, sight. But if you look at the original languages of the ancient world, this kind of end rhyme is virtually non-existent. Ancient Greek and Roman poetry did not rhyme. Instead, their poetry operated on entirely different structural rules. In classical Greek and Latin, the music of language came from quantitative meter. This wasn't based on stressed syllables like modern English, but on syllable length, literally the duration of time it took to pronounce a vowel or consonant. Long syllables and short syllables were grouped into feet, like musical measures. In ancient Hebrew writing, like the Book of Psalms, there was no rhyme or set meter at all. Instead, they used parallelism, what scholars call thought rhyme. The poet would state an idea in the first line and then repeat, contrast, or expand upon that exact same thought in the second line using different words. And in ancient Germanic cultures, like the Anglo-Saxons of Beowulf, they used alliterative verse. Their lines didn't rhyme at the end. Instead, they were bound together by matching the initial sounds of the most heavily stressed words across a central pause. So whether it was the quantitative beats of Rome, the thought rhymes of Jerusalem, or the alliterative hammer blows of the Vikings, the entire ancient world shared a deep, universal human pattern, a demand for highly structured, patterned language. And that brings us to the ultimate question. What was this pattern actually for? To understand why our ancestors wrote this way, we have to realize that for thousands of years, the ultimate library of the human race wasn't made of paper, papyrus, or clay. It was made of human memory. In a primarily oral culture, if you wanted to pass down a medical recipe, a legal contract, a genealogy, or a religious ritual, you had to memorize it. And plain prose is the enemy of memory. If I tell you a list of 17 random rules in plain prose, your brain will struggle to retain them. But if I structure those rules into a rhythmic, metered pattern, the language itself becomes a vehicle for memory. A fascinating study by psychologists Wanda Wallace and David Rubin at Duke University analyzed how traditional ballad singers in North Carolina could recall incredibly long songs over generations. They discovered that the strict constraints of balladry, the rhyme scheme, the meter, the rhythm, drastically limit the words that can fit. The structure literally blocks mistakes from occurring. The Brahmin communities preserved the massive corpus of the Vedas, over 20,000 mantras, entirely by mouth for thousands of years. To ensure that not a single sound was corrupted, they developed 11 different systematic modes of recitation. They would recite the text continuously, samhita pata, then word by word with pauses, pada pata, and then in a step-by-step pairing sequence, krama pata, reciting the words as word 1-2, word 2-3, word 3-4. They even recited them backward. These different methods acted as cross-checks on each other, acoustic checksums that guaranteed the absolute mathematical integrity of the sacred sounds across generations. Rhythm was not an ornament. It was a preservation technology. And here lies the ultimate paradox of language. Once we could write down a recipe, a contract, or a law on a cheap piece of paper, we no longer needed to make it rhyme. We no longer needed to match the syllables, repeat the vowels, or balance the thoughts. The printing press, and later the digital screen, freed us from the constraints of rhythm. But in doing so, we lost a bit of the music of daily life. When you read ancient texts and feel that strange, haunting sense of melody, you are listening to the echoes of an era when language was not primarily something you looked at on a screen. It was something you listened to, remembered, and carried in your heart. Rhythm is humanity's oldest way of turning information into eternity. What do you think? Do you find yourself remembering things better when they are set to a beat or a rhyme? Let us know in the comments below. If this journey into the mind's frontier sparked your curiosity, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with another curious mind. Until next time, keep exploring.